Well, it is a very special Betfred boxing show this week with myself, Don McGuinness, and Anthony $1 Million Crolla. We are in the Matchroom Bubble ahead of a huge event, of course, topped by Parker, Chisora, but what an undercard as well. And arguably, well, will they steal the show on the night? You know, Katie Taylor defending all the lightweight belts against Natasha Jonas, a stat card as well that myself and Anthony are going to get right into. But before we do, Anne, I just want to check that you're okay, because we both obviously, entered the bubble today. We've had the swabs done. We've had all our room service orders taken. We're stuck in our rooms now, but I don't know. It's hardly hell, is it?
I'm surviving, Dom. I'm surviving. Listen, it's been great. We're getting well looked after here. Food brought to the door, stuff like that. But obviously, we're looking forward to getting out there and getting amongst the action in the bubble.
What did you tell your missus before coming in today? I mean, were you telling her that it was just work, or you can't leave the room, it's going to be awful, it's terrible, or woe is me?
Well, it is just work, and the cooking will be nowhere near as good as you can imagine. So,
nice recovery like that, yeah.
We're going to struggle, but we're going there, so we're doing it for the families, aren't we?
I'll tell you the truth, Fran, one day. Anyway, we're going to look ahead in a bit, but before we do that, there was some action at the weekend that we have to address, of course, and there was you'd have to say a bit of a shock in the way it turned out. Felix Cash against Denzel Bentley. I don't think anyone really thought it would go that early, and obviously many, like myself, I fancied Bentley to really give Felix Cash a massive test, but as it was, Cash was more or less punch perfect, wasn't he?
He was brilliant. You just stood up there. He was punch perfect. I think, like I said, it was a real pick and fight with Bentley. I went Cash, and I went Cash inside the distance, but I very nearly changed my mind just before the first bell. It was with no certainty, but I didn't expect that kind of fight. And, he was pretty dominant from the start. Bentley landed some nice shots, and you thought as the fight would go on, he would come into it more and more. But you've got to give Cash credit. He buzzed Bentley on the ropes, and he jumped on him with a few big shots. And Victor Lachlan, brilliant referee, called it perfect. Called halt on the action, and listen, it's a great win for Cash, and he rolls on now, and listen, great for him to win the British title, but he'll look to move on now, whether it be, he might defend it, but there's talk of a Liam Williams fight, which would be, I think that would be violence, wouldn't it? But it looks sort of to push on to European fringe world title for sure. Great performance.
Yeah, talking of violence, your mate Callum Johnson been out of the ring a long time. I think we made the point last week. You fought twice since Callum last boxed.
Yes.
How inactive he's been. But there was a lad that was very eager. He got the job done, but he was caught in the first round. I mean, how eager was he? What did you make of it, knowing him so well and training with him and knowing what Joe would have been saying to him?
I'll be honest, my heart was in the mouth when he took that right hand. And listen, that would have put many light heavyweights out. I think the only positive about him taking that right hand was how quick he recovered. But he really, certainly not the boxing terms, Callum sort of set about his opponent like it stole something from him. It literally was. There wasn't much too technical about it. It was like just beating down on the heavy bag. But listen, it was a great win. There's no denying that. Very capable opponent. He'd only lost to world champions or to world title challengers. Sorry. And listen, it was a great win. It's great to see Callum Johnson back. I think he said in the interview after it and speaking to him, he was pretty nervous, and it's understandably been out the ring 770 days, just over 2 years. So for him to be back out in a decent opponent, the nerves are on to kick in. So I'm positive Joe didn't say, listen, you get out there and you put it on him like that. You heard him at the end of round one saying, listen, it's a 10-round fight, but listen, nonetheless, it was a great win, and it's great to see Callum Johnson back.
Well, we are going to move on to the Matchroom card because we are in Manchester, of course. It's that huge night of action on the Sky pay-per-view in the Manchester Arena. No fans, unfortunately, of course, but we can see some light at the end of the tunnel as far as that is concerned. We're going to really go into the undercard, and we're going to bring you all sorts of interviews and snippets over the next few days right here on Betfred. But firstly, we're going to deal with the main event. And myself and Anthony, a little earlier, we caught up with the two big boys, Jospeh Parker and Derek Chisora.
To be totally honest, I'm feeling great. I'm feeling like we've had a tremendous camp. We started off 2 weeks in Ireland where Andy and I put on some good work, and then we moved over to Morecambe, where we were there for 4 weeks, using Tyson Fury's gym and staying in one of his houses, and we got some good rounds of sparring under our belt. So I think leading into this fight, mentally and physically, probably the best I've ever been.
Joseph, I think we know what a great boxing brain that Andy Lee's got, and he's going to transform into a coach that everyone who's worked with him says the same. What do you feel that Andy's added to your game, mate? What is it that you feel that Andy Lee has added to you as a fighter?
Yeah, I feel we haven't been given the longest time to work together. You know, it was about 6 weeks. This is the 7th week going into the week of the fight. But the few things that he has corrected and changed a few things, I feel like it's going to make a big difference. You know, just with my focus, you know, with my footwork, you know, technique. I think the most important thing is a technique. You know, I was doing one thing and then he showed me another thing and I tried it and it felt a lot better. So I think that's the biggest difference.
Yeah.
Joseph, how big a deal has it been for you to move to Ireland? I know that's where you're going to base yourself, I believe, now. I mean, obviously to be based in Las Vegas, but also with your family in New Zealand. I mean, how big a deal has that been to uproot and bring everything over to these shores?
It's you know, when we first made the decision to move over to Ireland to train with Andy, my family have been very supportive. It was you know, the hardest thing about being away is missing the family and the kids and not being there to see them grow. But they're very supportive, very understanding, and you know, hopefully with this fight, hopefully everything goes well. We can extend the contract with Matchroom and then continue locking in fights and keep busy. And so it is quite hard being away, but it's what needs to be done to get back to the top.
Joseph, you've been involved in fights sort of recently with a crowd. Is this your first fight without a crowd, or
this will be the first fight with no crowd?
Any concerns about that at all? Or I know you're a professional, you've been around a long time, but what you're expecting, obviously a lot quieter than normal, but do you see it being a problem at all?
I don't see it being a problem. I think as a fighter, you know, you go to the gym, you train, you know, you prepare well, and then, you know, you have the ring there. As long as you have a ring and gloves and a mouth guard, I think you should be okay. So there's no problems.
Yeah.
What about the bubble, Joseph and Derek? Because I mean, there's a bit of history between you two. It was meant to happen a good while ago, this fight, and then it didn't. And you know, Derek had his say at the time. Is there any kind of bad blood, and are you expecting any fun and games now before the fight? Because Derek can do that, as we know. Yeah,
there's no bad blood. There's a lot of respect, but going into the fight, like I really want to hurt this guy, you know, and I want to get him out of there. You know, he's been around for a long time, so we're not really sure what to expect, you know. But we'll prepare for whatever he brings, whether it's you know, positive things he's going to say, negative things, whether it's going to be aggressive or non-aggressive. We just don't know what he's going to bring, but we're very prepared for it.
Joe, I guess that the aim is now without a doubt to win a world title again, to become a 2-time world champion. Obviously, spending time with Tyson Fury, what's the ideal route for you? I know obviously everything's sort of on hold to see what happens with Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. But for you, is the ultimate aim? Would you like another crack at Joshua if that doesn't happen? That's the perfect fight for you.
I would love another chance to you know, rematch with Joshua. But first things first is get this fight out of the way, and then I think if we, you know, get this fight out of the way and look good doing so, then there's a lot of other fights that we can sort of set up, and then keep winning and be in a position when the bouts are free that you can fight for it. You can be right there waiting.
Good.
But Tyson Fury could cause you a bit of a headache, or certainly Andy Lee.
Say it again.
If Tyson Fury was the man that you wanted to fight, that could cause a bit of a problem for Andy Lee.
We'll see.
Yes, we can't let you go, mate, without your. What's your opinion on Morecambe? Let us know what you think of Morecambe.
I really enjoyed my time in Morecambe.
Really?
There's been a lot of support for Team Parker in Morecambe, you know, and it's we went on a good runs along the waterfront. Like I said, everyone was friendly, but we had a great setup. You know, Tyson was very generous in letting us use the gym and the house, and I felt like it's exactly what I needed at this stage of my career, being away from family and friends, isolating somewhere else, and then just, you know, all I'm focusing on is training, eating, and sleeping.
You're looking fantastic shape there. You're looking fantastic shape there, Josie. Weight-wise, what you're looking to come in at, or do you want to just keep that quiet until fight day?
I don't know, 240.
Yeah.
Probably 109, 110 kgs. I'm not sure. I've been, you know, the weight's been not a problem. I've been eating a lot. I got good energy, and I'm feeling refreshed, and I'm feeling good every single day.
Great stuff.
Joseph, just want to ask you about the lockdown. You were one of the lockdown kings of social media. I mean, all the stuff that you were putting out there was fantastic. And again, how do you think that's helped your profile? I mean, has it made a big difference to you coming over here now? And obviously, you've come over here where New Zealand doesn't really have a massive COVID problem. You've changed everything, haven't you?
Yeah, in New Zealand, we're doing very well with the COVID situation. I feel like with those videos, it was just a great way of lifting spirits at a very hard time. Not everyone could deal with being stuck at home, but I think with the little videos that we've done, we show that, you know, you can have fun while being at home. You can have fun with the family, but also that, you know, just to put a smile on people's faces. So it's been very well received here.
Well, Joe Parker's so relaxed. He always is relaxed, isn't he, Anthony? But again, we're going to hear from Derek Chisora tomorrow. But like Andy, Derek Chisora, he's made changes. Buddy McGirt now with him. Adds a little facet to it all, doesn't it?
It really does. Like you say, you can see how happy Jospeh Parker is with the link up with Andy Lee. It feels like he's added to his game in such a short space of time. And obviously, Derek with a great Buddy McGirt. He'll end up being an Hall of Fame trainer for sure. So that certainly adds to it. And we've spoke about how it's seen as sort of a must-win fight for both if they're to continue in the quest to become world champion. Jospeh Parker's already done that. Obviously, Derek, that's all that missing in his crazy career. So yeah, it's a real sort of just adds a little bit of spice to it.
Lots of links to Tyson Fury in this fight. Tyson Fury fought Derek Chisora twice, of course, and he was trained by Peter Fury at the time. Peter Fury, of course, father and trainer of Hughie Fury, who fought Joe Parker for that WBO heavyweight title in Manchester a few years back. So who better then to run the rule over this fight than Peter Fury? And producer Josh, he did just that and caught up with Peter.
Big weekend of boxing, Peter. Two heavyweights that you know very well. You've been in the opposite corner against both Derek Chisora on 2 occasions and Jospeh Parker. How do you see the fight going between those two?
Well, obviously it'll be a good fight because Derek Chisora is not in a boring fight, so it's going to be very good there. Looking at the stats, really, you should pick Jospeh Parker because he's younger, he's fresher, and you know, he has got, for me, better boxing ability. So, but that all said and done, Chisora brings it. You know, he's an all-in fighting man, isn't he? And you know, unless you're on your proper A game, he's going to catch up with you. 12 rounds is a long time. So it's going to be a good fight, this. And, you know, Parker could be running away with it early. And, you know, Chisora could catch up with him mid rounds onwards. So it's one of them. But, you know, we all know. But Parker, don't underestimate his power either. He's got a punch on him. So if he connects on Chisora, you know, it's one punch, it's a heavyweight game. So Chisora, he's got to gamble, he's got to come in, but he could walk into a lethal shot as he done with Dillian White. So all these things make it a very intriguing, interesting fight to see. So I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a great fight.
Definitely. And both fighters, they've got new members of their camps as well. How much do you think that will come into play?
I think it'll come into play to some amount. But, you know, to get a fighter to turn to the way you want him, it takes quite a while. You know, it's a new beginning for both teams, really. So it's like trying to say, I'm going to draft somebody in with Chisora and learn an old dog new tricks, you know, in such a short space of time. I'm sure Buddy McGirt will be doing what he can, but, you know, is it going to mean much on the night? I don't think it's going to be much of a difference. And with Parker, I don't know how long he's been with, what's his name?
Andy Lee.
Andy Lee, sorry. I don't know, he's been with him a month or two, has he?
Yeah.
So again, it's relatively new, but still, we should see some improvements because he's young and he can pick up things a lot better, I would imagine.
Definitely. And you mentioned it's going to be a great 12 rounds. Do you think it will go the distance, or like you said, Derek Chisora is always in these entertaining fights and Jospeh Parker can land them as well?
Either Derek Chisora is going to lay it all on the table like he normally does, either get tired and get stopped himself, walking into shots, or the same applies to Parker. He might not be able to keep Chisora off him. He might be catching up with him, you know, so this is the thing. But if we see the same Chisora with the same determination and the spite in him as what we've seen against Usyk, Parker's in for a tough night. But how much has he got left in the tank after hard fights? That's the question mark with Chisora now. Is the ambition really there? Keep jumping to the well time and time again. So there's a big question mark there. Is Chisora really going to turn up for this? Or is he thinking, look, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to put hard fights up and just get me money, and that'll do. And if he comes up with that attitude, he's definitely going to come short.
Definitely. And you've been busy during this period. You've been in the bubble a few times. Is there any news on when we could see Hughie out in action next?
Well, we're waiting on a date and opponent. So he's in training. He started sparring again. So we give him a couple of weeks off because he's already had a 3-month training camp with sparring partners. And for whatever reason, that date never came off. So he's just ticking away, Hughie, and just waiting for that phone call. He's ready, isn't he? So we're just waiting for a time and a date and an opponent.
And a couple of weeks ago, we've spoken to her on the show with Dom and Ant. Savannah Marshall, another impressive performance a couple of weeks ago. What's the plan with Savannah? Look to get her out again in the summer, and then hopefully that fight against Claressa Shields later in the year.
Yeah, Savannah's getting better all the time. Now she's a world champion. She's got that first defense out the way. All the doubts should be erased now. That firm belief should be there. So we haven't seen the best of Savannah yet. Still things that we're working on. You've seen again improvements in the last fight. She's landing the right hand a lot more. That's coming off a lot better. So there's still things to work on, which she's back in the gym shortly, and we'll be working on them. So Savannah, believe it or not, is still an improving fighter.
Yeah, definitely. And looking forward to, hopefully, fingers crossed, later in the year, seeing that fight against Claressa Shields as well. What have you made of Claressa going into the world of MMA as well?
I think it's all good. Look, me sitting back looking at it, Claressa Shields is a phenomenal fighter. She cleared all them belts. She's a good talent, got a good personality, outspoken, she puts herself out there. And look, if she can get herself recognition in MMA and all this, good luck to her. The more the fight builds, is better for both of them anyway. So like I said, I respect her as a fighter, and I think she's very good. And Savannah is highly capable of beating Claressa Shields, but so you can say the other way around. So again, it's a 50-50 battle, and that's why it's such an intriguing fight, this. I class myself as some sort of a boxing analyst that knows what he's on about. And regardless of what people say, it's not a walk in the park. It's a very, very difficult fight for both of them. And, nobody can say for sure who's going to win that fight. That's why it needs to build up it's getting, because it will be a hell of a fight. There'll be no standoff jibber-jabbing anyway. It'll be, they'll have to get down to, as I would say, blood and snot to pull it out the bag. So it will be a hard-fought contest.
Definitely. And women's boxing has been on the uprise, especially this year. We've seen so many great fights from Eddie Hearn's back garden to the night Savannah won a couple of weeks ago, when you had Ebony Bridges on there as well, and Terry Harper coming up. And this weekend on the show, we have got another great female bout with Katie Taylor taking on Natasha Jonas. What do you make of that one, and how do you see that one going, Peter?
I think Natasha Jonas is very, very awkward, and she can punch. So I think she'll make a tough night of it. I think Katie Taylor won't be in it all her own way. And I just wish Natasha Jonas all the very best with it. I know Natasha, actually. She's a very nice person, and I'm sure Katie Taylor is as well. But we all know what Katie Taylor is. She's a phenomenal talent, unified champion. She's done it all. But like I said, everybody's beatable. And if anybody's capable of doing it, Natasha Jonas is, as we've seen with Terry Harper. Styles make fights, and you cannot underestimate anybody, especially a world-level southpaw like she is.
Well, as ever, brilliant insight from Peter Fury about the heavyweights, but obviously about other matters regarding Hughie, Savannah Marshall, and the small matter of Katie Taylor against Natasha Jonas. Now, Anthony, again, we've spoken quite a bit, obviously, over the last few weeks about Natasha, but this close now to fight night, any little snippets of information you can tell us about a mindset, any little changes you've seen in her?
You mentioned mindset, and one thing, Tasha, is she's mentally very, very strong. I think, self-belief, she sees self-belief as a really big thing, and she believes Saturday night's her moment to become world champion. She's worked her whole life towards this, and she believes it's her moment. And I think someone with that belief can be very dangerous, very difficult to beat.
It's going to be a busy night for yourself and Joe. You're going to be in the corner on a couple of occasions. Obviously, that you've got Natasha, obviously doing, as we know, that challenge for all the lightweight belts. But Marcus Morrison, and this is a really intriguing one. Of course, he got the call. It was on his birthday. He was out of the blue. I went down to the gym in Bolton to have a word with Marcus and Joe just about their chances or how they assess this massive task against Chris Eubank Jr.
Well, Marcus, I see that obviously you've been well in camp now for this Eubank fight. Firstly, it's the standard question about how it's all going in training camp, and are you going to give me the standard answer?
Yeah, look, everyone, trains hard throughout camp, and I was just lucky enough to, be at a good level of fitness before camp actually started. I think we had 8 weeks, 8 weeks notice, so that's, that's plenty of time when, you're 60-70% fit. Have you seen then? Another good day banked.
When did this fight actually come around from your point of view? When did you first hear of it?
It's not, listen, this isn't the fight that's, been in the pipeline or been, asked for. It's just something that pops up, and it actually came up on my birthday, which was March the 9th. I got a phone call off Joe, and yeah, it was a massive shock to me. He said, I had a phone call off the Sowlands, and an offer had been made to me, and he didn't actually say who at first, so I was like, who against? He said, Eubank Jr. Like, what do you think? So straight away I said, listen, let's do it. Massive fight, something that I can massively get up for, and one I can't wait for now. Yeah, this is a huge moment in my career. This is something that can go and change, me and my family's life. I go and pull this off, and it's, it upsets the odds massively. And like I said, this takes my career to, new heights. I don't think he's the greatest of boxers. I think he's a very good fighter. Which is why, I think at the top level he's come sort of unstuck against, very good boxers. But what he does well. And I've just got to make sure that on the night, I'm at my best, and what I do well, I've got to, make sure, like I said, I'm at my best on May the 1st. On their side, yeah, they might be looking past me, but, more through them. But for me, this is just another fight that I believe I'm capable of going and winning. Like I said, big fight, but something I'm confident I can go in and do. I feel like I've grown into a real strong middleweight now, and I just think at 28, what better time to go in and test yourself against someone who's said to be world level. You're getting boxed into what test yourself against the best and being the biggest of fights. So what an idiot I'd be if I turned down a fight like this, just to sort of save reputation or whatnot. I want to test myself against the best, and I think this is a great direction towards that. The reasons for me having a time apart with Joe was for my own personal issues, and I feel like I needed a fresh start just to get me back going again. And I think that worked wonders, and to be back here now with that fire again, it's done wonders, and I think it will do for my career, especially going into a fight like this. Like I said, a lot of people expected me just to be making numbers up on the night, but trust me, I won't be there just to make up the numbers.
You can't really say Chris Eubank Jr. and attach a trainer to him as that he's been a trainer of his career, so it'll be interesting to see how he comes. He'll be wanting to make an impression. I like Eubank Jr. He comes for a fight, and that's what he does, fight. We're not talking about a boxing purist here. He comes for a fight, and it's literally a street fight, and that's what we've got to prepare Marcus for. As I was saying, it was a great opportunity for Marcus. I don't think there's no middleweight in the country that would have turned it down. We negotiated a little, got him good money, not too much because we know someone else would take it for less, but it was a good opportunity for Marcus. He's on the verge of a British title shot. We've got Bentley fighting cash, so he had to fight an eliminator, but I just think this is a great fight for him to profile-wise. And it's a great chance. Chris Eubank Jr, he's been out of the ring a while. He'll be wanting to impress with his new trainer, Roy Jones Jr. I'm sure it's still Roy unless he's changed it. So for Marcus, it's a win. No one's expecting him to win. And it's how Marcus does, and with the profile of fighting someone like Chris Eubank Jr. So I know we're a massive underdog. We're a very live underdog. Obviously, when you show somebody a good boxing style, you don't go to Chris Eubank Jr, do you? Chris Eubank Jr has a good jab, throws a lovely right uppercut, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, and we'll get in, rough you up, throw punches and bunches, and drag you in. That's how you see how he ragdolled James DeGale around the ring, and yeah, and the fight with George Groves at the end. It pulls them into fights, and like I say, that's where he got his success then with Billy Joe. Billy Joe boxed him once he could drag Billy Joe into it, and that's where it's got to be a fight with Chris Eubank Jr. I keep saying to everyone in the gym, we're not messing about. We're here to win these fights, and we've got to give it a good go.
Well, as we heard there, Anthony, it's all about opportunities, isn't it? And Marcus isn't going to let an opportunity like this slip. You know, he's going to give it his absolute all. And again, like I asked you about Natasha, you know, so close to fight night now, and you're going to be in that corner, and you know him inside out, Marcus. Any changes again with him so close to fight night?
No, he seems to be relishing it all. You know, really looking forward to it all. I think he's enjoying it because there's very little pressure on him. You know, being realistic, Marcus does it on Saturday night, it'd be a massive upset, and I think he knows that, and I think he's enjoying the fact that, you know what, no, I can really punch. I'm in with a chance. He's quietly confident he can cause an upset, and there's no pressure on him, so I think he's enjoying that.
There's similarities with yourself in a way, isn't it? I mean, you were a rising star, then you had a couple of blips, but then you had the best part of your career. So he was a rising star. He had the story about playing for Man City and then being rejected and then focusing just on boxing. He'd always boxed, but focusing just on boxing. And then creating this career, you know, sweet and he looks the part, lovely white diamante shorts and everything else. But then he's had the Wellborn blip and a couple of others. And so he's kind of learned a lot, hasn't he? Like you have. You had to grow up and mature. And
similarities, a lot of similarities in the career. And, you know, he seems in a good place and, you know, very mature for it all. And it's like I said, he's not delusional. Like, he knows it's a big ask on Saturday night, but I think since the fight being made, you know, you mentioned it then, it took him all of a few seconds to, you know, snap Joe's hand off for it. And he can't wait for it. He's not coming there Saturday night to make up numbers. He's coming there because he believes it can genuinely cause one of the biggest shocks we've seen in recent years.
Yeah, well, we look forward to that one as well because, well, it's one of many fights to look forward to and many characters involved as well. And again, we're locked up at the minute, Anthony, but I can't wait to get downstairs to the common areas. And I know you want to play darts. I just want to see who's there because there's people like Dimitri Bivol. I cannot wait to see him on Saturday night. Again, he's taking on Craig Richards. And what a chance for Craig. Again, no pressure on him, but Bivol.
Again, he's a huge underdog going into it. We just mentioned about Marcus Morrison, Eubank. You could argue Richards every bit as big of an underdog. But he's coming off a great win last time out. I know Shakan Peters and Bivol are different animals. However, you know, we might look at sort of the height difference and stuff like that. Sort of, you might see it as a little mini dress rehearsal, and he landed a knockout punch that night, and he'll certainly looking to do the same again. But listen, there's no denying he's up against it in a massive talent in Bivol. Yeah,
and some other again interesting challenges at different stages of their career, but James Tennyson's in action, Scott Fitzgerald is back, and it's a second pro fight for Campbell Hatton.
Yes, Campbell's back out, and look forward to catching up. The Hatton family's here in the bubble. You mentioned about characters in the bubble. You got the Hattons, the Eubanks, some of the great British families in recent years. But yeah, Campbell out, and he's out against a fellow Manchester fighter in Levi Dunn. So he'll see it as a huge opportunity that night. You know, he's had an handful of fights, but he's going to see that this is really a time for him to gate crash the party, and he'll come to have a go. It'll be entertaining for sure, that fight.
Yeah, some other characters as well. Buddy McGirt now with Chisora. We've got Andy Lee now with Joe Parker, which we touched upon earlier. But again, when you go through the list, Roy Jones Jr. with Eubank. I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? Some of the characters. And then just knocking around, obviously, David Hay, who manages Chisora, Tony Bellew, who's in the bubble as well. It's the
return of Scott Fitzgerald, I think, as well. The return of Scott. There's, wow, yeah, I think we could have our own show just from the bubble. It'd be entertaining.
Yeah, well, we intend to do just that. We're going to see what we can bring to Betfred. It's going to be interesting the next couple of days as well ahead of the main event. It is the big Matchroom card in Manchester. It is Parker Chisora. It is Taylor Jonas and all the rest as well. And myself and Anthony, we're going to be busy ferreting around to bring you all the information that we can from the bubble as soon as we can get out of our nice rooms. No denying that. And you're looking forward to it?
I'm looking forward to it, getting amongst it for sure.
Great stuff. So we'll see you soon right here on Betfred.